So good afternoon to everyone and a warm welcome to this webinar for the very first POLARIN webinar for transnational access applicants. And my name is Hannele Savela. I'm leading the transnational access management in the POLARIN consortium. I'm located at University of Oulu in Finland. I will be your host in today's webinar. And in this webinar, you will hear about POLARIN and you will learn about the transnational access that we are providing in POLARIN and also how to apply in the currently ongoing call that has a deadline in the end of November. And you will also hear about what's going to happen if access is granted. So then you already know kind of what is the expectation from those users that are granted transnational access. But now we are going to start by hearing a little bit more about the POLARIN project, the transnational access offered, and the research infrastructures. And I would like to invite Veronica Willmott, who is the project manager of POLARIN, to tell about those issues. Welcome, Veronica. You can share your screen.
Thank you. Yes, I will do that. Thank you, Hannele. I just lost the PowerPoint. I don't know why it's not showing here. Yeah. Can you see my screen and can you hear me well? Good. Excellent. Yes. Sorry, get tons of windows here from Zoom. Very good. So yeah, I would like to, as Hannele said, I'm Veronica Willmott. I work at the Alfred Wegener Institute at the International Cooperation Unit. And I'm going to make a little introduction on what the project POLARIN is and the infrastructures you will be able to access in this call. So the project POLARIN is a European funded project. It's funded for 5 years. We started in March 2024 and we will run until February 2029. We are an infrastructure project and we are aimed to give research infrastructure services for sustainable Arctic polar regions to address the main challenges and the EU priorities. One second, let me see. Here it is. So this is our consortium. We are 52 partners at the moment and with a probably growing consortium. So it's a very vast, and all the infrastructures that you're being offered in this project are from our partners. The background of POLARIN, so this is not coming out of the blue. Most of you might know that there has been a very long series of transnational access projects funded by the.
Okay, someone now has their microphone open, so please mute your microphones. Thank you. Except you, Veronica. You should unmute. You are muted now.
Sorry.
Okay, now.
Okay, now it's good. Good.
Yeah.
So there is a long story of transnational access projects. This is not, POLARIN is not coming out of the blue. Most of you might know that there was the Eurofleets project starting in 2009 and running until last year. This was giving access to vessels in everywhere, actually, ocean worldwide. It was followed by the project Interact, giving access to research stations in the Arctic, which had a very long story of 13 years. It was in between the project Arise, giving access to research breakers in the Arctic Ocean. And now in this last round of funding, we can see we have 2 new projects, which are Aquarius, which is an expanding of Eurofleets, and POLARIN, which is actually a combination of Interact, Arise, and in addition, the southern hemisphere. We have Antarctica for the first time giving transnational access, and in addition, access to other kind of infrastructures, which are not vessels and are not stations, you will see. So the overall aim of POLARIN is to provide efficient and customized research infrastructure services to address the scientific challenges of the polar regions, including an access to a wide portfolio of complementary and interdisciplinary top-level research infrastructures. POLARIN will integrate and combine the access to the Arctic and Antarctic research infrastructures, improve online services, data access, and interoperability, and will ensure that the new generations are trained to exploit the leading-edge research infrastructures. So those are our three main pillars: access, data, and training. So in POLARIN, in the full project, we give access to 64 research infrastructures in both poles. Among them, we have 38 research stations, 12 polar vessels operating in both poles, 18 observatories, some of them or most of them associated to research stations, but we also have observatories on their own, ice and sediment co-repositories, and this is the transnational access. Data infrastructures and data from observatories, new data, these will be provided as virtual access in other parts of the project that you will hear as well if you follow us in our newsletters and the news. The particularity of this is that we have to give access to these infrastructures to research projects that address the key questions in the polar regions. So if this is for the first time, the access to the infrastructure is challenge-based. So as I said, the transnational access, it can be done in two ways. One is in person, so the researchers go to the infrastructure to gather their own data, or remote, when the researchers ask to get some samples taken by them, for example, by technicians or personnel from the stations, and the samples are sent to them, so they do not have to travel. We offer these two possibilities in almost, not everywhere, but almost in all the infrastructures. And the particularity, as I said, of transnational access, either in person or remote, it doesn't matter, is that it is proposal-based. You have to write a proposal that will be evaluated. It is challenge-driven, so in your proposal, you will have to justify and explain very well how you are addressing the challenges, or one of the challenges at least that are particular to these polar regions. And it is in support of excellent science. That means that the proposals will be evaluated by experts external to the project. It is as well the access we give in support of international cooperation and in support of larger scale initiatives. What we grant is transnational access, that scientists can access research infrastructures from other countries, from countries different than the country where they are actually based, not the nationality, but where they are actually working. And we do this access in support of international cooperation, as I was saying. So for larger teams, we ask that the teams are made by different nationalities or different scientists working in different countries. And we also support the access needed for larger scale initiatives. Up to 20% of the access can be given to users that are not based in the European Union or associated countries. And if granted, both the access to the research infrastructure, the travel expenses are covered by the project. And also all the expenses like shipping expenses, for example, for samples, etc., are as well covered. But only the expenses that are directly related to the access. That is, pre-meetings, post-meetings, etc., are not covered. And what is not covered either is the research that you are doing afterwards. So these, you need to ensure that you have sufficient funds to work the samples that you are going to collect. And as you know, I hope you all know, all that are here, the call for proposals is now open, and you have time to submit your proposals until the end of November. This is the structure of POLARIN. It is a bit bigger than the transnational access. It's not a small part, as you know, the transnational access, but we have other project parts, which is for example, the data access products and services, like improvement of data services and data products. We have also provision of virtual access, and we have also training for infrastructure users. In the transnational access, we have two main work packages. One that is enabling science for understanding and predicting key processes in polar regions. This is led by CNRS in France. One of our colleagues should be here today, Marie-Noël. And then this in this work package is both the prioritization of research and as well the scientific evaluation of the proposals. Work package 2 is led by the University of Oulu, and Hannele is here representing, is the work package dedicated to the proposal management service. What are the key actors in the scientific excellency of the proposals you're going to write? So first, there is this scientific framework of the call for proposals led by CNRS, which provides a topic definition and the identification of priority topics together with Aarhus University. Then there is the scientific evaluation of proposals, which is led by OGS in Italy and the University of Oulu. And this has two main bodies. One is the POLARIN Evaluation Secretariat, which is based at OGS and coordinates the scientific evaluation of the call for proposals. Probably Michele Rebesco is here today representing OGS, the Evaluation Secretariat. And then we have as well the POLARIN Scientific Liaison Panel, which is composed by 19 polar experts, and more than 50% are non-consortium members. This body supervises, ranks, and recommends the implementation of scientifically excellent proposals. I mentioned this because you will hear a lot about the Scientific Liaison Panel, the Evaluation Secretariat, and then you have at least a frame on where are these things located or placed. But there is as well, in addition of the scientific evaluation, there is a feasibility or logistical evaluation of proposals, which is led by the University of Oulu and CSIC in Spain. And this is the main actors is the POLARIN Infrastructure Operators Forum, which are the operators of POLARIN research infrastructures, which are in charge of evaluating the logistic feasibility of the proposals submitted. In the call for proposals, you have seen we have a dedicated page for that with different headings, subtabs here, where you will get all the information for the call. It is very important that you address correctly the topic for the call. So the research priorities in polar regions, you need to justify, not only mention, but truly justify with your proposal how you are going to contribute. This is one very important part in the evaluation of the proposal. And also pay attention to the infrastructures. You will see we have made a table with the kind of access you are able to apply for. And when you click in the description of the infrastructures, here is like a little resume, but the full information is located in the specific infrastructure. So when you click in the name, you will reach all the information, what it is, what kind of what is contributing to, what kind of instrumentation. Of course, all the information is very often not written here, but you have always links to websites where you can find the rest of the information and complement all the information you need to be able to prepare your proposal. You also have always the name of the infrastructure manager. And please, we ask you to, when you are developing your project, to ensure with the infrastructure manager that your proposal is you will be able to implement it. The equipment you need is there, or if you need it, that you have to bring it. So to make a pre-logistic check, I think this is a very good way of making a very good proposal on your side. So what do we have in POLARIN? We have, as I said, 38 research stations, 27 in the Arctic. We have stations in Alaska and the Northern Territories, in Nunavut, in Greenland, Iceland, Faroe Island, in Northern Europe, Sweden and Finland, and Svalbard as well. And in the Antarctica, we have 11 infrastructures. Most of them are located in the Antarctic Peninsula, or at least a bit more than half of them. And we have another set of stations in Dronning Land, Wilkesland, and Victoria Land. This is offered for the first time. It's the first time that Antarctic infrastructures are offered for transnational access. We also have 12 Polar vessels. 2 of them are not offered at the moment in this call. They will be offered next year. And from the other infrastructures, you have some vessels that are operated only in the Arctic, here in blue, only others only in the Antarctic, in orange, and some infrastructures could operate in both poles, even though I think, yeah, Laura Bassi is only offered in the Antarctica, but they have the possibility to operate. How it works with the vessels is a bit different than for the stations. For the stations, we really have a lot of days that we can allocate to the stations. But for the vessels, because of course they are much more expensive to operate, we have only a small set of days that can be allocated. That means that for most of the vessels, they will, if they are offered in this call and they are allocated, so if we find a successful proposal that can be implemented, most likely they will not be offered again. We only have days for Le Commandant Charcot to be open continuously. That will be offered. And of course, next year, Polarsten and the Tara Polar Station. But for the other infrastructures, if they are allocated now, depending on the size of the project, most likely it will not happen again. So we encourage to all of you that want to access for example, the CCGS Amundsen, Annie Fredriksson, etc. All these vessels, just please apply now. Don't wait for next call because they might not be offered anymore. We also give access, as I said, to 18 observatories. Most of them are associated to the research stations, but we also offer access to the Deep Sea Observatory FRAM in the Arctic, where we offer the possibility to install sensors that can be deployed and can be installed for about 1, 2, or 3 years. We also give access to the observational networks in Greenland, and that's it, the key observatories that I mentioned, both in the Arctic and Antarctic, associated to stations. We also provide access to ice and sediment core repositories, and in this call, for now, only giving access to the Polar Sediment Core Facility from BAS and from the Core Repository and Geological Laboratories from the University of Tromsø. And that's it. So should you have any question about the project Polarin, please, you can contact us anytime. We are happy to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Veronica. Are there any questions to Veronica at this stage? Okay, if not, then I think we move forward, and questions can also be made after my presentation and then in the very end of the webinar. So next we will proceed to discuss more in detail and talk in more detail about the ongoing call and about the call requirements, eligibility issues, and things like that. And I will start sharing my screen. Okay, and are you able to see now? You can show thumbs up. Okay, I can see Veronica is nodding.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so here is the content of this presentation. So we are going to start talking a little bit about what is transnational access and some words about the different modalities of access. Then we go through once more the call information, and then we proceed to the more details on how to apply in the call. And what comes after that is to kind of help you to prepare as good proposal as possible so that you will be successful in applying transnational access from Polarin. And we are going to talk about the transnational access provision chain to give you an overview about it, what kind of different stages are included, and then we are going to go into more detail on what is important considering each stage of the access provision chain. We are going to talk about the eligibility, about the call topics that Veronica already mentioned about. Then we are going to talk something about the data policy, because that is also very important aspects, also about transnational access in Polarin. Then we are going to talk about the evaluation and selection process for transnational access, what is access priority, and then move forward to what happens after access is granted. So then you learn more about these obligations and expectations from the transnational access users and projects. And then we have time for questions and answers. So what is transnational access? That is shortened TA. So there are two modalities that we are going to talk now about. And the first one is in-person access. And that means free of charge, transnational access to research infrastructures or installations. And installations means a specific part of a bigger infrastructure. And this transnational access in person, it includes the use of the research infrastructure. We cover the travel and logistic costs to and from the research infrastructure. Also the meals and accommodation at the research infrastructure when you are spending time there in person are covered. And also it includes the specific support and training that is usually provided to external users of that infrastructure. And all this we are covering up to the granted amount. So amount of user days, amount of travel and logistic costs. Then the second modality is remote access, shortened RA. And in this remote access, the users are provided, for example, reference materials or samples, or they get access to high-performance computing facility, or they receive the data from the study that the research infrastructure staff has conducted according to the user's research plan and protocol. And this remote access includes the use of the research infrastructure, for example, user day, and then also logistic costs, such as freight costs or shipping. And again, the costs are covered or reimbursed up to the granted amount. And it's also good to remember that this in-person and remote access can be combined. It can be combined even in the same proposal for access. So, for example, what is done quite often is that this project is first starting with in-person access. The researchers are visiting the research infrastructure to get the research started there, and then it can continue as remote access. So then the research infrastructure staff will help you to conduct the study further. And then very important part is the last part also, what is not included in the access. So for example, salary costs are not covered. Any kinds of allowances are not eligible costs and they will not be covered or reimbursed. This includes daily allowances, meal allowances, kilometer allowances, insurance costs also are not eligible costs. They are under your responsibility to be covered. Then also subcontracting, publication costs, overheads, equipment purchases or rental, consumables, phone bills, internet costs, and so on for your personal use, they are not covered. And then the call information. Veronica already showed you the call webpage. There is a link to the call webpage also here in my presentation, and we will share these presentations as well as the recording after the webinar. And also we offer these guidelines for applicants, and that is a PDF document that is embedded to this call webpage. And this really includes all the information that you need to prepare and submit a proposal. And it's really recommended that the first thing before you even start putting together your proposal is that you visit, of course, the call webpage and you read these guidelines for applicants. That will also not only help you to put together a proposal that is eligible and more likely to be successful, but it also really is going to answer many of your questions already when reading that document. And the call deadline is on 28th of November and at 4 p.m. CET, so Central European Time. And the proposals, they must be submitted through the transnational access platform that is called POLARIN TAP. And that is an online system for submitting and preparing the proposals. And also we use that to manage the whole access provision in Polarin. So once you register to the system and submit your proposal there, then if you are granted access, you will also be doing the reporting of your used access there in this Polarin tab. And we also use the system to monitor the used access and the projects that have been conducted with our support. And what I really like to stress out is that late submissions, not even late by 1 minute or an hour or so, so late submissions and submissions that you would be doing with any other channel than this Polarin tab will not be accepted. They are rejected, unfortunately, right away. So please take care to submit your proposal in the tab and also do it by the deadline, November 28th by 4 p.m. Central European time. And then after we go through the proposal evaluation, then the access decisions will be announced around mid-March 2025. And that we also do. We send the access decisions in the Polarin tab system, and you will receive an email notification when the access decisions are there. Then the steps how to apply. So as I mentioned, please first read carefully these guidelines for applicants. And the next step then is to create a user account in this POLARIN Transnational Access platform. And that is very easy. You can create yourself a user account from the front page of the system, and it will only take a couple minutes of your time. And right after that, you can start preparing your proposal. And then after that, what we recommend you to do next is to contact the research infrastructure operators, because it's very important that you consult them in the first place if your proposal or if the plan that you have for your research for which you want to apply for access, if it's feasible to be conducted at the research infrastructure where you are planning to apply. And that doesn't need to be a complicated process, this consultation. You simply write email, all the contact information is there on the research infrastructure pages. And then you just briefly explain what kind of study are you planning to apply for access. And then the research infrastructure operator will provide you a response, like whether it sounds feasible or not. And after that, you can start working on your application in the Polarin tab. And once you have filled in the application form there online, you can also add these appendixes, attachments to your application. We will talk a little bit more at the later slides about these appendixes that are required, but we provide templates and guidelines for all these appendixes to your proposal. So we have tried to make it as easy for you as possible. And then you can very easily prepare this attachment by using the template and following the guidelines, and then simply attach them to your proposal in the Polarin tab. And then the last and final stage is to submit your proposal before the deadline. And you are able to work on your application in several sessions and store it in between. But you have to recognize that you can only submit one application per call. And I mean one application where you are the principal investigators, where you are the group leader of that proposal. It is okay to be a member in more than one proposal, but only one that you can submit as the main applicant. And here is a short list of the appendixes required. So we require a project description, a curriculum vitae, then a preliminary TA data management plan, and then letters of recommendation from early career researchers. And as I told already, templates including the guidelines are available on the call webpage and in the tab system. And this slide is about these appendixes that are required. So the first one is the project description. And you must adhere to the maximum number of pages. And then maximum number of pages depends on the type of the research infrastructure where you are applying for access. So if you are applying to Antarctic research infrastructure or vessel, or you are applying access to several research infrastructure in one proposal, then I think the maximum page limit was 8. And then if you are applying to any other type of research infrastructure, for example, Arctic research infrastructure, then it is 6, including references. And you are asked many kinds of things about your study in this template for project description. And there is also a question about the required permits and what is kind of your plan, that we want to know, that you know what kind of permits and licenses are required to work at the research infrastructure. So if you are in doubt about that, or you don't find the information from the website for the research infrastructures, you can always also consult the research infrastructure operator or manager and ask about this permitting and licensing needed. And then give the information in the project description. Then the second compulsory attachment is the CV, and that is required from the user group leader, the main applicant. And you must use the CV template, and the page limit for this is 1 page. And if any of these project description or CV are beyond, they are exceeding the page limit, they will be automatically rejected from evaluation. So please pay attention to this. Then the third appendix is the Transnational Access Data Management Plan, and you should use this preliminary TA Data Management Plan template. And that is simply to describe the management of data that you are gathering in your access project. And this data management plan, even though it's a compulsory attachment, it is not assessed, it will not be evaluated before the project is selected. So only if your project is selected for implementation, if access is granted, it will only be assessed then. But anyhow, this preliminary version must be submitted with the proposal. And if you are granted access, then we will take a closer look on this TA data management plan, and then it will be kind of, we can maybe ask additions or more precise information, or if something needs to be adjusted. So it will only be asked after access is granted. And then also we are providing support if you need any help or support in this data management plan. We can also do that then afterwards when access is granted. And then the fourth attachment is the letter of recommendation required from the early career researchers. And that means undergraduate, graduate, or postgraduate early career researcher or student or postdoc level up to 5 years active in science after the latest degree. And only if this early career researcher is applying as a user group leader, then they must provide 1 to 2 letters of recommendation from their academic supervisor or by some other relevant person in support of their application. And you will find these templates. They also include guidelines in them from this TA call webpage and from POLARIN tab. And then information about the research infrastructures is available on the POLARIN website. Then we move forward, and here is an overview of the whole process of POLARIN transnational access provision. And on the left-hand side in this graphic, you can see the access provision chain, starting from the transnational access call and ending to the project reporting of the transnational access. And we already talked about this transnational access call and the proposal submission. And now we are going to focus more on these next steps after the call has closed, on the eligibility check and on the scientific and logistic evaluation. And then we are going to close this webinar talking a little bit more about these final stages after access is granted, the negotiation and then the implementation, and a little bit also about the reporting of used transnational access. So first about the eligibility. So when the call is closing, we first do an eligibility check to all proposals. And we have 6 eligibility criteria. And when you are preparing your proposal and planning to make it, take a close look on these 6 eligibility criteria and check that your proposal really fills in, ticks the box all in these eligibility criteria. Because we only accept proposals for evaluation if they meet all of these 6 criteria. And the first is the affiliation. And that eligibility criteria is such that the user group leader and at least 80% of the users must work in countries other than the countries where the legal entity operating the infrastructure is based. And if the infrastructure is composed of several research facilities that are operated by different legal entities, this condition must apply to each facility. And the only exception to this eligibility rule is when access is provided by international organization, a joint research center, an ERIC or similar legal entity with international membership. Veronica, do you remember if we have any of these joint research centers? So we don't have those in POLARIN, so you must stick to the first part of the sentence, that at least the user group leader and at least 80% of the users must work in another country. Then what is the country of that research infrastructure operator? And those user groups who have more than 4 users must include researchers from at least 2 different countries. So if you have over 4 members, then at least 2 countries that the user group members are representing. So we try to really promote these international teams as well. Is there a question in chat? Yeah, there could be the document library in tab where you can obtain those. And then also when you are preparing the proposal, you can see a kind of a place in your proposal form for the appendixes. And from there you can also download the documents. And you can also download these templates from the guidelines for applicants. Then the second eligibility rule, expertise. So the user group leader must have appropriate expertise to lead the research at the requested research infrastructure. So for example, vessels, you are often required some training, and you should have such experience that you are able to lead the group, for example, at the vessel. Then the third eligibility rule is about duration of the access at the research infrastructure. And the maximum duration of granted access is limited to the units of access offered in POLARIN. So you can see the amount of access offered in POLARIN from the table on the TA call web page. And then secondly, in any case, it must be less than 3 months. So 90 days is the maximum amount of access that can be granted to one user group. And this limitation is set by the European Commission, and it is definite. Then the fourth eligibility rule is about these key research challenges, the call topics that I'm going to explain right after this slide. So the proposals must contribute to addressing at least one of the key research challenges in the polar regions as detailed in the call text. And more information is available in the TA call page. The fifth one is about dissemination. So only user groups that are allowed and willing to disseminate the results they have generated under the project are eligible for access. And the only exception to this eligibility condition is if the users are working for small or medium enterprises. And then the sixth one is about the data policy that we are also going to discuss a little bit more detail in the next slides. So it is an eligibility rule in POLARIN that the user groups must agree to comply with the POLARIN data policy, and this will be asked from you when you start preparing your proposal, and that you agree with this eligibility rule and you agree to comply with the data policy is a requirement that you can actually proceed with your proposal. And non-fulfillment of any of the criteria implies non-acceptance of the proposal for further evaluation. So all those proposals that are failing any one or more of these eligibility criteria will be rejected at this stage, and they will not proceed to the evaluation. Okay, then about the call topics. I noticed there might be some questions in the chat, but maybe I continue until the end of my presentation, and then we'll see the questions in chat, and then if there are any additional questions. So here are the call topics. And this refers to one of these eligibility rules that the proposals must contribute to this or address these key research challenges. So it is a requirement and eligibility rule that proposals must contribute and address at least one of the key research challenges or priorities in the polar regions. And Veronica already showed this list. There are seven of them here in POLARIN. And it is evaluated, I think, in scientific and societal impact criteria that your proposal really is mentioning that which of these key research challenges or priorities your proposal is addressing. And it's very important that you remember to show and justify the direct contribution that your proposal has on these, because we are supporting this challenge-driven access in POLARIN. And there is very detailed information about the content of each of these key research challenges on this Transnational Access Call web page in POLARIN. So you can find that from there and then fit your proposal with these key research challenges. Then about the POLARIN data policy, as I mentioned, it is an eligibility criteria that the user groups comply with the POLARIN data policy. And as I already told you, the preliminary TA data management plan is a compulsory attachment or appendix to the proposal, but will only be assessed if access is granted. And what is in the core of this POLARIN data policy, what comes to transnational access, is that the user groups that are granted transnational access from POLARIN, they must agree to publish their data in a trusted repository, the latest within 24 months from the completion of their access. So I think it's very important that you know it already at this stage, when you are applying, that you are expected to share your data resulting from the access within 2 years from the completion of the access. And we are providing support and training available for our TA user groups, for example, regarding how to identify suitable metadata and data standards. And also we are able to provide you support with your data management plan when it's finalized and fine-tuned after access is granted. And all the transnational access user groups are obliged to report the citation and the DOI or relevant other persistent identifier of these data sets that are resulting from transnational access and that will be shared in some repository. And in addition to data, of course, we also expect that you will share the publications resulting from transnational access that you provide in POLARIN tab, the citation and the DOI to your publications resulting from transnational access. Then we go to the evaluation and selection process in more detail. This is valuable information, I think, when you are preparing your proposal, so that you know that what are the evaluation criteria and how are your proposals for access going to be evaluated in POLARIN. So there are several stages also in this evaluation and selection process, and we already talked about this eligibility check that is based on these 6 eligibility criteria. And after the eligibility check is done, those proposals that pass the eligibility check will proceed to scientific evaluation. And the scientific evaluation is managed by the Scientific Evaluation Secretariat and supported in this work by the Scientific Liaison Panel. And this panel is a panel of international experts, and over 50% of these experts are external to POLARIN Consortium. I think I have the sign in the wrong way there. So over 50% of the Scientific Liaison Panel members are external to the POLARIN Consortium. And each of the proposals that will be scientifically evaluated will be assigned a so-called watchdog from the SLP members. And this watchdog is a person who kind of oversees this evaluation that then will be done completely external experts. And the watchdog is there to kind of help also not only the scientific evaluation, but then also those projects who are granted access. So this watchdog is not only following the evaluation, the scientific evaluation, but also following those projects who are then in the end granted access, you know, and checking their project report and maybe can be providing some advice if needed or some ideas how to fine-tune or adjust the project if needed after the scientific evaluation has been conducted. And once this watchdog has been assigned from the SLP, they will also help to find external experts to evaluate the proposal. And once those experts have been identified, then the proposals will be reviewed by these external experts by predefined criteria that are listed below in the lower part of the slides. And the scientific evaluation criteria, there are 6 of them, and each will be scored from 1 to 5. And 1 is poor and 5 is excellent. And the first criteria is scientific quality of the planned research, and that has a weighing of 30% in the overall scoring. Then the second one is the scientific and societal impact. That has a 10% weight. The quality of the work plan has 15% weighing. The fourth one, scientific competence of the user group leader and user group, has 15% weighing. Then the fifth criteria, expected results and possible risks, has 15% weighing. And the final one, the sixth one, exploitation of results, has a weighing of 15%. So this is the list of criteria and scoring that these external reviewers are using when they are making the scientific evaluation. And once all those scientific evaluations have been submitted to POLARIN TAP, then the scientific liaison panel will meet and they will look through all these evaluations by the external experts. And also this watchdog will provide a kind of a statement once they have checked these external evaluators. And then in the meeting, the scientific liaison panel will prepare a joint scientific evaluation statement for each proposal. And also they will make an access recommendation. And that means if they are recommending the proposal for access to the research infrastructure or not. And then only these projects that are recommended for access will move to logistic evaluation. And we are now also moving to logistic evaluation and access decision. So when the research infrastructures receive the recommended proposals in POLARIN TAP, they are able to look through the proposals also and see all the scientific evaluation that has been done and this scientific evaluation statement that has been done for each proposal by the scientific liaison panel. And after that, these research infrastructure operators do the logistic evaluation, and that is based on the logistic feasibility of the proposed work, the use of equipment, area of operation, and timing of access applied. And of course, they also utilize the results of the scientific evaluation in their decision. And there is this infrastructure operators forum that is providing the research infrastructure operator support and consultation in this logistic evaluation. So there will be also a meeting of this larger infrastructure operators forum. And after this infrastructure operators forum, and after the research infrastructure operators themselves have gone through all the proposals to their research infrastructure that are recommended for access, then they make the access decision. So the final word is at the research infrastructure. They submit the access decision in POLARIN TAP for each of the proposals to their infrastructure, and then also provide a logistic evaluation statement to kind of justify their decision. And once the research infrastructure operators have sent their access decision or submitted it into TAP, then these access decisions will be sent out to the applicants. And these access decisions include the amount of access that has been granted, and then the travel and logistic costs. And that is provided in euros. And also, in addition to this access decision and granted access, the applicants also receive the scientific and logistic evaluation statement. So you kind of get feedback also on the access decision and on your proposal. And of course, also, not everyone is granted access. So also those applicants whose proposal is rejected and access is not granted, they also receive feedback. And after that, the projects who are granted access, they enter so-called negotiation stage. And that means that the applicants can accept or reject the granted access in the POLARIN TAP. So even at that stage, you also have the right either accept what has been granted to you or or withdraw and not accept access. And there also can be possible adjustments that have to be done to the project, or that are encouraged to be done to the project according to recommendations by this scientific liaison panel in the scientific evaluation statement, or by the research infrastructure operators in this logistic evaluation statement. And you can then negotiate with the research infrastructure operator on how and if what these adjustments are made. And then very important part of this negotiation phase is signing of the agreements with the POLARIN consortium and with the research infrastructure where access is granted. So there will be two different agreements that will be signed. And again, we provide templates for these agreements in the tab. So then it's kind of a smooth process. You can download the agreements and your organization will sign those, and then you return the signed documents to POLARIN tab. I can see there are now really many questions, so I can take a look at the questions now, some of them.
I've been answering some of the questions already in the chat.
Okay. So, are there any that should be answered now? What do you think, Veronica? Or
I've been answered some. We can open for questions. I think that will be the best. So I keep in any case answering this, and we can provide the chat afterwards for reference.
Okay. Okay. So how about if I still continue? I have a couple of slides, and then we have the open session for questions to keep it a little bit more organized. Okay. So this slide is about the access priority, and this is related to the evaluation, to the scientific evaluation especially. And what this access priority means is that even though the selection of the user groups for access is based on the scientific excellence, if there is a situation when there are equal scientific merits, and we have to kind of decide like whether recommend one project or another project who are at equal scientific merit, then priority will be given to user groups who are composed of users that have not previously used the installation or are working in countries where no equivalent research infrastructure exists. So these are the access priorities at equal scientific merit. And in addition, we at POLARIN encourage submission of proposals that consider multidisciplinary and multinational user groups. And this is also a requirement specifically for user groups that has more than 4 team members. And also we are encouraging proposals that are requesting access either to a combination of research infrastructures or ones that have this bipolar two-pole approach. Because they're kind of taking like really full benefit, I think, about this portfolio of the POLARIN research infrastructure. So we kind of want to encourage that. And then, of course, we encourage user groups that have gender balance and involvement of early career researchers, and specifically also Ukrainian researchers from government-controlled territories as user group leaders. We have talked a lot about the evaluation and selection of projects, but then also a couple of slides about what happens after access is granted. So, of course, first, after this negotiation stage, where you have maybe are doing little adjustments to your project and you have signed the agreements, then you start the preparation to the access. And that is done by the user group yourselves, but in consultation and collaboration with the research infrastructure. So what is important to do during this preparation is, of course, to confirm the dates of the access and booking the accommodation from the research infrastructure so that they know when you are coming there. Then secondly, it's very important to timely apply or undergo this research infrastructure specific permitting, licensing, training, medical examination processes, and so on. Very often these permitting and licensing processes have deadlines. So that is why you need to know what kind of permits and licenses are needed from user groups that are granted access and initiate this permitting process well in advance so that you will for sure have the permits when it's time for you to go and do the field work. And this is your responsibility. But of course, the research infrastructure are very collaborative, and they will be guiding you and giving you information and consultation if you need. The third thing to do is to make the travel and flight arrangements to and from the research infrastructure. There is an exception to this, and that is the chartered parts to the research infrastructure and back. Some research infrastructure require, for example, chartered flights, and those are taken care by the research infrastructure operator. But all the other travel and flight arrangements, you have to take care of yourself. And then fourth and very important thing is taking care of the insurance arrangements. For example, several infrastructures require the SAR insurance, search and rescue insurance, and this is specifically very important because it's not only, of course, about your safety and your health during the access, but also because this is your responsibility also money-wise. The transnational access support does not include support or reimbursement of insurance costs. That is the responsibility of your employer. And that is why also it's so important that you need to be employed by someone when you are applying for access and when you are conducting the access. Because by legal, also within the legal framework, it is your employer's responsibility, your insurance during the access visit. So it's important to take care of that. And also to know that it is the liability of you and your employer. Then after the preparations have been made, then you will be actually doing the field work or the remote access. And in that you must follow the policies and safety and other regulations of the research infrastructure. And after you have used the access, then it is time to submit a project report. Again, that is done in POLARIN tab. And that consists of 3 parts, like a general information about your access, then the scientific, a little bit more detailed part where you explain what was done and what kind of results have you been gaining. And then there is one part in this report for feedback. And this will again be a kind of a project template provided to you in tab. And after you have submitted your project reports, we are giving 8 weeks of time for that. Then you have to submit your travel claim to the research infrastructure, and they will pay you the travel reimbursement after the access has been done. Then, of course, you will be analyzing the data you have gained and publishing it and making the data openly available. And there was that 24-month limit for sharing your data in an open and trusted repository. And then, of course, you will be reporting publications and in addition to these open access datasets in POLARIN tab. Here is our contact information. So we are here to help you and support you. And if you have any general questions about the transnational access or the applications, you can contact us in the first email address. Then if you have inquiries specifically regarding scientific evaluation, you can contact the POLARIN Evaluation Secretariat. That email address is in the middle. And then in the technical matters regarding the POLARIN tab, you can contact this third email address that is for our system support. But what is most important to know that you will always receive support and guidance from us. Then my last slide is about this POLARIN expert pool. I explained that there will be external experts who will evaluate scientifically your proposals, and for that we need the experts. So we have also launched a call for this POLARIN expert pool. And that is a pool of volunteers who will help us to do this peer review, this external review of the transnational access applications. And it is possible to register to this pool at any time. We, of course, hope many registrations already before the call is closing. So we have the pool ready by the time when the evaluations start. You can access this registration from the link there on the slide, and that is very short as well, will only take you a couple of minutes. And more information about this expert pool is available at the Evaluation Secretariat. And now there is time for questions and answers, and I hope you are not all sleeping already. This was a long presentation.
I would like to mention that the link to sign up for this extra pool, you can also find it in the news from POLARIN. If you scroll down the main page of POLARIN, there is an item there published today.
Mm-hmm. Is there any questions you would like to raise now, or is there anything, Veronica, that you have found that should be answered now?
There are many questions. I think I have answered everything that was posted in the chat. There was a question on when to book the hotels or anything related to any access. Please do not book anything until you know that you are granted and until you are your institute has signed the contract. So do not book any flights, do not book anything, even if the research infrastructure operators are telling you that it's feasible, etc. The proposals are evaluated. So please do not book anything. Other person was asking about how it works in the vessels. So depending on the vessel, some of the vessels we are offering are really very big. And of course, the team that is granted access will be sharing the access with other scientists on board. Of course, the team applying can decide and plan in the operational area that is given for a specific transect or a specific stations, but the main time they will be sharing the vessel. I see Michele has switched on his camera. Michele Revesco is the head of the POLARIN Evaluation Secretariat at OGS. He will be running all the scientific evaluation process here.
I noticed there is a question in chat about a person being a PhD student and would like to ask if it's only possible for one person to apply. And if not, can the application team or the user group be made of only students? And is it enough if a letter from the teacher is sufficient? I would say that it is, in theory, it is possible that only one person is applying for access, but you have to be really, check really carefully to which infrastructure you are applying, because if the research infrastructure, for example, is in very remote location, it is dangerous to work in the field by yourself. And many research infrastructures do not even allow a person to the field by themselves. For example, if there can be polar bear, you need someone to monitor with a gun the polar bears, and then one is working and so on. So if you are considering applying only by yourself, then very carefully choose a research infrastructure where it is like it's not so remote. And maybe if your research is that kind of type that you can do it by yourself. And you can also contact the research infrastructure and ask if it's possible there to work in the field by yourself. But I would say that maybe in any case, it's good to consider having a colleague with, not to be only by yourself. Veronica, what do you think?
Yes, I would not recommend it either. At least 2 people should travel if it's a remote location. But of course, it depends. You need to contact the operator, research infrastructure operator, to clarify this in advance.
And of course, early career researcher can apply, and it is then needed that you need this letter of recommendation. But you also have to consider that then, of course, if you don't have any senior researcher, then, you know, the scientific merit, of course, is never not going to be as good as with maybe with the senior researcher, but I'm sure that also the evaluators will then take this into account. They will they are very experienced, and they will know to proportion this lack of experience because an early career researcher. So yeah.
Of course. So, and we welcome these applications by early career researchers. We know how difficult it is to access infrastructures as well when you need it and you are still early careers. So we support this. And of course, in any case, you have to make an excellent proposal. But of course, we take into consideration, for example, in the CV. That's why we ask a CV, and that's why we ask if you are an early career researcher to take this into consideration.
I noticed there is one question from a person who is planning to apply for ship time to study one or more fields in the Arctic. This person is flexible on which field exactly to study and when the fieldwork would take place. How do I reflect this flexibility in the proposal? Do I still need to provide transects or specific timing?
Yeah, so there is when you apply for the infrastructure, you can apply for one main infrastructure and for a secondary infrastructure in case 2 infrastructures could be operating in the same area. This is the first point. The second, you will have to somehow calculate the number of stations you want to do, the time you need to make this research in whatever the fjord. So you can explain that it doesn't matter this fjord or this other. But in any case, you need somehow to give an estimation of the ship time you need. It's not the same, of course, you need to know if you are doing 7 CTDs, if you want to have, I don't know what kind of samples, but you have to make somehow a calculation so that we evaluate, we can know if it's possible for the vessel to implement.
But
maybe Michele, you want to comment?
Yeah.
Michele, you want to comment something? No? Okay.
Yeah, and of course, if access is granted, then based on your estimation, then there can be small adjustment at the negotiation stage, for example, as well. Yeah. Okay. Then there's a question. Is there a maximum eligible cost for in-person access? For example, regarding covered cost for flight, charter transport of samples, is there gap of the TA granted amount, and if so, how much is it? We haven't put any kind of very specific maximum amounts like that because it's very infrastructure specific. There is like a really big amount. You don't have to worry about this access cost or this in person. The maximum limit there is 90 days, or you know what is, because some infrastructures don't even offer more than like 10 days or 20 days, so you cannot really be given more. You need to check it from this research infrastructure table on the TA call page, what is the amount that they offer, and kind of see what is matching your needs, or then you need to match your proposal into what they are able to offer. But what comes to this travel cost, of course, that also we don't limit, because, you know, it depends on where you are located, where the research infrastructure is located. But I would say from my previous experience from Arctic research infrastructures, that there it could be something like 15 to 20,000 euros.
Important is that this
more.
cost.
Yeah.
Important is that this cost has to be realistic.
Yeah.
So it has to be realistic. This will eventually be checked and evaluated. So just put numbers that are real. So how much a flight costs, not to the cent, but do not ask for 50,000 euros just randomly. So it has to be realistic.
All those research infrastructures that have chartered flights, they have a price list. You can see how much does the flight cost, how much does the chartered part cost, and then of course you can provide estimates for the flights. So you are able to put, I think, quite realistic budget with that information. Okay, Giacomo is asking, in the access priority section of the guidelines, it stated have not previously used the installation. Does this refer also to path interact calls or only to POLARIN? Thank you very much.
It's in general. So of course we're not only for, so what we want to promote, of course, is the access to infrastructures from transnational access and the users that are new users. But that doesn't mean that to any of the costs, only people that have never been in this infrastructure can access. So of course, these priority criteria are given are equal ranking at equal excellency. So if two proposals are excellent with the same kind of points, with the same excellency rated, and both are able to implement, it could be that the access is given to the new user or not, because it's a continuation of a project. So usually the new user will have priority, but it has to be, it's very difficult as well that two proposals are exactly with the same point. In my opinion.
It's a difficult choice, but I think this access priority is to try to make it a little bit easier for the research infrastructure. But it's not something that is like 100%, binding.
Especially for countries. So this is more, it's not actually at an individual level, but we for example, let's say the Netherlands, they do not own or operate infrastructure in the polar regions, right? So these are users that they have a strong polar program, very strong polar program, but they do not have access to infrastructure. So this is the kind of users as well that will be prioritized in case of equal.
Okay, there's a really good question here. Will there be a way to connect with other prospective applicants to fulfill international collaboration requirements and potentially make data collection feedback more efficient? Fantastic question.
Yes, and this is something we can implement actually in the Catalyst platform. I don't know if you are all aware. Yes, there is a possibility for cooperation. Maybe Eva is still here. Eva? She's there, but she's not responding. There is a platform that is actually made for that, and I'm going to put the link here.
I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, Eva, no problem. So I was, people were asking about a way to connect with other prospective applicants to fulfill international collaboration requirements and potentially make data collection fieldwork more efficient. And I was mentioning the Catalyst platform. Would be possible to open a POLARIN channel, maybe, or is it individual base? Maybe we can open a POLARIN channel in the Catalyst platform.
Yeah, and then we can
to
share
allow
the
people
link
to communicate. Yeah, shall we do that?
Yeah, it's possible to create kind of like discussion.
Yeah.
Where people can talk about specific topic, and it's very easy to create such conversation. And also, I would recommend Catalyst to follow other news and events. It's also very easy to follow.
Yeah. Eva, can you place the link to the Catalyst platform
I'll
here?
put it. I'm copying it here. You need to sign up for this. It's totally free of use, and it's actually made for that, to facilitate. To facilitate the networking of polar researchers. So usually all the news from the polar community are there, or collaboration possibilities, etc. Do we need to open a channel ourselves, or do we leave it open to the applicants to connect or shall we make a channel for POLARIN? What do you think?
I can already create it.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we create a channel, and then you can already. Things will not get lost maybe in other communication, and then you can find and propose there your, maybe that's a good idea.
Okay, so Eva has created the discussion link there, ready to the Catalyst platform, and we can place it to the call page, okay?
Yeah, this is the platform, the link to the platform, and we will create a special place inside for the POLARIN applicants. Yeah. You will be able to see it when you register. It will be open to everyone. You can also create private groups.
Exactly.
By the way, so once you establish a cooperation with somebody, then you can use also this platform as your own discussion way, and you can even get notifications. So it's quite a handy platform.
Okay, so we have a plan ahead with this one. So please
Good
visit
point.
the Catalyst platform, and the discussion will be waiting for you there, those who want to network. And that's a fantastic idea, I think. It's really, really nice you want to do the networking. Okay, next question. Why are some stations not available during the call? There are many reasons for that. Not so many that are not available yet, but some were not able to open it yet. For the next year. So we have asked all the research infrastructure operators if they are able to join the call. So from various reasons, some of them have said that they are unfortunately not able to join this call, but then they will join the next one.
There are many reasons. Maybe they are full already. They do not have the capabilities. Maybe they are doing some renovations in the stations. Maybe so there are many reasons why, but that doesn't mean that next year they will not be open. They will most likely be open. With full force if everything is clear.
Okay, a couple more questions. Is there a way to assess which vessel is best for which area? Because it could be that two ships work for the same area, but I'd rather ask for one with the LADCP on board, for example. There are vessel people here, Mikkele and Veronica. Do you know what to answer to this one?
But I don't see this question. Where did you see it?
To everyone, it is posted 14 past 4 by Dolores.
Okay.
Dolores.
Okay, I didn't see it. Yes, so you of course, depending on what you need in the vessel, you have to check the capabilities of each vessel. There is a description of all the equipment is included. In case two vessels suit your needs, is the same as other person that was asking about the suitability of several infrastructures. Just put that you will put one as a main infrastructure, another one as a secondary infrastructure, and that you would be able to operate or to implement your proposal in any of those infrastructures. But you have to put one as a main, as a primary.
Okay, then there's a good question here also. If proposal requests access to more than one research infrastructure, can the proposal be partly funded? For example, proposal requests 2 to 3 stations, but access to only 1 to 2 is granted instead of completely. Yes, it is possible. It is possible that because it is the research infrastructure operator that makes the final decision. So it can be that some projects after scientific evaluation are recommended, for example, to all stations. And then the station, for example, could be that they cannot fit one project, so they reject the access. But then some other stations can accept it. So it is possible that it is partially funded. It's not all or nothing necessarily. Yeah. Okay, then Miguel Ojeda gives a little tips about the vessels. He's the leader of the Infrastructure Operators Forum, that sometimes vessel operators have their own website also with routing or equipments on board. So please check the research infrastructure specific websites as well. The links are always provided on the POLARIN website. Are there any other questions? We have time for a couple more, 4 minutes left of this webinar.
Yes, somebody is asking about the Antarctica station. So how it says for Antarctica station, travel most likely will only be until the city gateways. Yes, so with the cost is until there, and then it's picked up by the national polar programs that will bring to the Antarctica stations. You do not have to check for any other transport.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is this partially kind of chartered system.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think there's one more. If early career researchers are within the 5-year post-last degree as defined on the POLARIN website, are they considered an ECR regardless of their current employment position, researcher, assistant professor, or only applies to postdocs?
Independently of the position. Yeah.
Then it's just more merited early career researcher if it's associate professor, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think we have been giving quite a lot of information to everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar and that it has been informative. And if there are any further questions, you are always welcome to contact us. The contact information is available on the TA Call webpage. And I'm really happy that we met so many of you here in this webinar, and we are wishing you a very successful proposal and looking forward to receiving your proposals.
One note, Eva has included, has created the link to the POLARIN First Call discussion platform in Polar Catalyst. Thank you, Eva.
Yes, sure. It's on the, if you click on the Polar Catalyst discussions, you will see on the left side list of different discussions. So then you have to look for the specific one, which is POLARIN First Call. You click on that and then you will see the discussion. And I would recommend you to subscribe to the discussion. At the top of the page, there is a button where you can subscribe, and then it means you will get notifications whenever there will be new message posted.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you very much.
And do you think, Veronica, we can also place this to the TA Call webpage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Then it's one more way to access it there. Okay. Okay, this was everything from me at least, and thank you everyone, and hopefully we get to continue the collaboration when you are granted access. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.